Gentlemen, this is interesting. New research has found that almost half of Gen Zs never have more than one glass of wine. Do they know something we don't, Paul?
Yeah, and I mean, I think anyone who has a Gen Z member in their family, right, which just to remind everyone is anyone born between 1997 and 2012, will probably already suspect this, that they just don't drink to the same level as we did. I mean, 42% of them say that they've never had more than one glass of wine. A further 39% say they rarely have more than one. I remember when I was at university, a bottle of wine was like the warm-up act before we went out as a group.
I was just in the house when you're getting ready.
Exactly,
you know.
and I'm not advocating that, because when you look back now, it was awful for our health, right? And Gen Z seem to have really clocked this, which I'm sure Amir will talk to us about as well. But this is a survey of 2,000 Britons commissioned by a company called Poco Vino, which sells wine in single glasses. So, look, they've got, like, an interest in doing this survey. But nevertheless, as I say, it's not particularly surprising that Gen Z are also opting to order wine by the glass. And more than a quarter of people admit, actually, that they always have half-empty bottles of wine in the fridge, you know, because it's quite difficult, isn't it, when you're at home, maybe you just want one or two glasses, then you stick the bottle in the fridge and it goes a bit manky, quite frankly, after a few days. You don't really want to drink it, goes down the sink.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah, you're an absolute saint. But, yeah, so I think, again, as I say, it's not particularly surprising that Gen Z are doing this, but I wonder whether they're just setting a really good example to the rest of us.
Yeah.
Because, actually, you know, if it wasn't for Gen Z, we wouldn't have so many good alcohol-free options on the market, for example, which I quite enjoy now. I don't enjoy drinking anywhere near as much as I did when I was younger. So, yeah, it's got to be a good thing, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, from a health perspective, Amir, they're onto something, aren't they?
They certainly are. You know, as a doctor, it's nice to hear that people are drinking less alcohol. I always say there's no safe level of alcohol, just recommended limits that people can have with the balancing the health issues there. But actually, this is interesting because it's very different to us millennials, how we used to go out. They don't think drinking to get drunk is cool. It's very uncool, Christy. So I'm just putting that out there for you. And also, they say, I have been out with you, Christine. I have been out with you. We know the drill.
He's got the receipt.
Sorry.
Carry on.
Yeah. Right, yes. So also they are teaching their parents and grandparents how to drink more responsibly. And 3/4 of them think they have a better kind of balance with work and life, and drinking doesn't really involve that. They prefer to go out for walks, cups of tea with their friends, and go to the cinema. So I think there's something definitely healthier about that. Whether they'll have the same fun memories that we did growing up, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, well, you see, they've got cameras now all the time. There were no sort of phones when we were doing it. There's no evidence.
And actually, there's a serious point to all that, which is that we're sort of suggesting they're doing this purely for a health point of view. But I wonder whether some of it also comes from that pressure of having to look good, right? When we were teenagers, school was rough, but then at least when you went home, you could kind of just decompress. Whereas now, they've got to look great on social media. They're all getting bullied on social media if they don't look the way they're supposed to look. So, you know, I think there is also that kind of worry about whether they're not carefree enough anymore. They're always worried about what they look like.
Exactly. And I'm only naughty when I go out with you because I know you can look after me. You're a doctor. So, like, let's just put that out there. My mum's watching. Yes. Anyway, very interesting pictures this morning of Sasha Baron Cohen on the front of the magazine, looking very, very different to how we remember him as Ali G and Borat. What's going on,
Yeah,
Paul?
here's a man who's definitely not having more than a glass of wine every night.
Definitely not.
So he's 53, I'd like to remind everyone as well, before we see any more pictures of him, which is astonishing. Men in their 50s really doing it at the moment. Ben Shepherd, of course, our lovely Ben Shepherd at ITV, was on the cover of Men's Health recently as well, really showing how fit and healthy you can be at 50 plus as a man. So Sasha Baron Cohen has had what is known in the industry now as a breakover. So it's where you break up with someone. In his case, he's divorced from his wife of 20 years, Isla Fisher, and he's now had this big makeover. And he looks worlds away now from his Borat days. I don't know if we can see a picture of what he looked like when he was Borat. But, you know, he's completely sort of... Oh, look, there he is, yeah, yeah. So he's really muscled up. Oh, okay, yeah, in the mankini. So he's really kind of toned up, trimmed up, and it's all part of his prep to star in the next series of the Marvel films where he's going to play the villain. And he said, some celebs use Ozempic, some use private chefs, others use personal trainers. I did all three. Which you know, is a reminder that he has access to all three, quite frankly, as a celebrity. But, you know, you've got to give him some credit. He looks amazing.
He does. Apparently, he has mentioned that he's been doing these just 25-minute workouts. Amir, I mean, I'm sure it must do something. He looks great.
Yeah, I mean, 25-minute workouts, if they're focused and upstanding, will get you results, and it may well change your body composition. I've got to be, we've got to be honest about this. There's more than just a 25-minute workout going on here. There's good nutrition, personalized chefs, things that we don't have access to. I like to think I work out for more than 25 minutes a day, but I don't look like that. But I think I put that down to my love of cake and chocolate and late nights with you, Christine, at a pizza shop at 2 o'clock in the morning, I think.
Wow.
Just I'm getting all the flavors this morning.
The secret's coming out on this show this morning.
Tell me about it.
I think going back to Sasha Baron Cohen for a minute, there is something in this kind of 25-minute workout, because I think for those of us with a really busy life, and look, I've got a long way to go before I look anything like that, but I find it really helpful mentally to keep a workout to less than an hour. It just means I'm so much more likely to do it. So I aim for 45 minutes, actually, and I only do it a couple of times a week because I've just got crazy life with a young child and everything. But nevertheless, it means I can kind of fit it in. Yeah. So I quite like this idea of 25 minutes, half an hour.
And
it's
you
realistic.
mentally go into it, it doesn't feel like it's going to be a slog.
Exactly. Or you feel like you've got to, I haven't quite got an hour, you know, I can't fit it in, I'll just give up.
Yeah.
Whereas 45 minutes, half an hour, 25 minutes, it's more realistic.
Yeah, and better than nothing, Amir, I guess.
I agree. I think any movement is better than nothing, and it will be good for your health. But I think looking at those pictures are very unrealistic. 25-minute workout, don't do that to you. That takes a lot more. There's a lot of dehydration in that picture as well. He probably hasn't drunk water for a while. And he talked about Ozempic, and he talked about private chefs. There's so much more going on. So you look at those pictures and go, oh, 25 minutes, I can do that. You can't. That's not how it works. You need a whole holistic approach to looking like that. And it takes a lot of discipline and a lot of money as well, to be fair.
Absolutely. Amir, he's just truth bombing everywhere today, isn't he? He's loving it. Health Now, and making the headlines this morning, 10,000 steps a day could be an absolute myth. Dr. Amir, what do you think? 10,000, we've all been striving for it for how long?
We certainly have, for a long, long time, but this is new data published in The Lancet. The study followed 160,000 adults, so it was a big study, and it found actually you get health benefits from about 7,000 steps. So between 2,000 and 7,000 steps, you get good health benefits. Anything beyond that, it kind of plateaus. So 7,000 is what you should be aiming for. What it found was all-cause deaths reduced by 47%, which is huge. They also found a reduction in cardiovascular health, things like dementia, falls, and also mental health. So really, really good. I always say anything is better than nothing. And if you're not used to walking that many steps, just start off small. And remember, 7,000 steps isn't a marathon. It's much more achievable than 10,000, and you get amazing health benefits.
Okay, good news. I'm up for that, 7,000 all the way. So tell us about these at-home health kits, test kits, Amir. It's in the news today. A lot of them could have very unreliable results.
Well, yes, that is the result of a new study carried out by the University of Birmingham. It was published in the BMJ late last night, so it is hot off the press. They looked at 30 of these at-home health tests that you can just get online, or you can buy from supermarkets or pharmacies on the high street. And actually what they found, that some of them weren't as accurate as they said that they were. And also they didn't give clear instructions on how to use them, how to interpret results, who should and shouldn't be using them. And also there is a worry from experts that they may delay people going to see their GP if they've got symptoms, if they're relying on inaccurate results by these health tests. The people who use them, who like them, say actually they are convenient and they offer them this access to health that they may not get from the NHS, because it is hard to get an appointment. But I would always say, if you've got any symptoms, rather than relying on a test you buy, come and speak to one of us and we will be able to help.
Of course. I mean, lots of sort of kind of typical ones almost, Amir. Like there's one for vitamin D, for instance. What does that look like?
Yes, so I went out and bought a lot yesterday. Nobody asked me about any symptoms. I just managed to buy them, no questions asked. The vitamin D one is fairly easy to use. It's a finger prick blood test. You put it on, it looks a bit like a COVID test, and it will tell you where you fall in terms of the levels of vitamin D, whether you're sufficient, insufficient or deficient. So there's different levels. I didn't mind this test. It was very broad. But what I would say to most people watching this, many of us are vitamin D deficient. You don't need a test to tell you that. And I would say, particularly between the months of October and April, just take an over-the-counter vitamin D supplement, and that should be enough. And get out safely in sunlight during the summer months.
Yeah, of course. There's another test for your thyroid, which affects a lot of women, in fact.
Yeah, an underactive thyroid, really common, 10 times more common in women than it is in men. The thyroid gland sits in our neck there. It controls the rate at which our body functions. And if you've got an underactive thyroid, you have a whole host of symptoms: tiredness, constipation, thinning hair, dry skin, lots and lots of things. Now, this test tests for a hormone which stimulates that thyroid gland. It comes from the brain. It's called the thyroid stimulating hormone. And if it's high, that means it's working too hard, and it might mean you have an underactive thyroid. That's what this test does. It's a finger prick test. There is a video linked to a QR code, and it shows you how to do it and how to interpret the results and what to do when you get the results. So that is positive. What I would say is thyroid symptoms, underactive thyroid symptoms, are so broad, and it could be so many other things. So if you get a negative test, you might think you're all right, but you might not be. So please don't rely on that test. Come and see us instead.
Yeah, that is exactly the worry. And that was why I'd be concerned with testing your own cholesterol.
Yeah, this one was worrying because it only gives you your total cholesterol, and you might be falsely reassured that your total cholesterol is fine if it tells you that. However, total cholesterol is made up of lots of different things. It's made up of good fats and bad fats. So if you have very low levels of good fats and high levels of bad fats, your total might be all right, but actually that isn't the case on the inside. So if you're worried about your cholesterol, particularly if you've got a family history of high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, come and speak to us. Don't get these tests, please.
Yeah, it's like you say, it could be maybe a little starting point for a lot of people potentially to maybe even push them to go to the doctors, but always go to your GP or healthcare professional. Amir, thank you so much.
Looking for more health and wellness content? There's plenty more right here on our channel. How about you check out this one?